everyone, I'm Tina, the creative guru with Gems, Paper, Scissors, and I am hopping on for my live at 5 Pacific time. I am working on continuing through the Spring Gnomes card making set. As I've said before, when you get a kit, if it's one of our specials, you have to download the instructions if you want to run with them. If it's a pre-made kit that is part of our featured papers, it comes in the package. I'm twisting this around a little bit just because A, I kept my paper wrong, and B, I don't need the sentiment right now, so I'm using it for what I need. So I'm going to walk you through that. I'm going to share my desktop, which is a complete and utter mess. So just be warned. So, as you know, the hills and valleys of cards, you fold it towards the hill. I like to use a bone folder to help get the fibers all laid out. Set that aside. And the original pattern for this has the card laying like this. But two things. One, I cut my clouds wrong. I wasn't paying attention to the cut guide, and I'm okay with that. So I'm actually going to be making my card vertically instead of horizontally. And so we're going to turn my base so that it is vertical. I am just using my everyday tape runner. I'm using them up before the end, it seems. I mean, I know people that are stocking them up. I'm not one of those people. I use what I have and hope for the best. So I intentionally left a little bit of space here. Part of that was, again, I really was tired when I was cutting. And so sometimes things happen. So I'm just going to dust the edge of this. But before I do, I'm going to grab my little messy mat and bring it on over to protect my work surface and set that down. And I'm just going to quickly use the inked part to do some fun little distressing, just like so. It just adds another dimension. Some people say, oh, that just makes it look messy. I really like it. It's a fun little effect. It doesn't harm anything. Next, the instructions suggested using a nice little journaling pen to do a little doodly, little dot, swivels, you know, the SketchUps of the borders. So that's what I just did. I'm going to adhere that. And I think I'm going to put it right about here. I have a really loose outline in my mind of what I'm doing here. This was cut to go this way. I'm going to actually turn it this way and then trim it. So there we go. I'm very, very much a maker that adapts. So just finding that spot where I like it the most. I want some of my squiggle lines to show, but I don't need the whole thing. You know, and grab my little non-stick scissors here, trim them up so that they end where I want it, just like so. Now to get to the sentiment piece. Now in this particular card, we have an additional piece, and in the original layout, it would be like something like this. This would be down here. So it would be more like this. But I don't really love it. So, and my sentiment isn't that tall. So I'm using one of my business builder ones, but any stamp set works, folks. Use what you're needing, not just because a pattern says, oh, you have to have a sympathy card, for instance. I go through sympathy cards, but sometimes I'm just not needing it or feeling it when I'm making a card. So I'm just going to add a little border down here, just like so. And I'll come back and do the other little border trim in just a second. I'm going to do glacier ink for my sentiment. I've had some really good referrals to my page, and I'm sending out thank you cards to a couple of gals who are helping me keep my small business up and running and getting me into teaching some more classes and whatnot. So there's that nice little sentiment. Shows up pretty well. And since I'm done with that, I'm going to just take my little damp mat and wipe off the ink. Remember, these just peel right off so that we can use those blocks for many, many things and not take up tons of storage. Always try to get your stamps back onto the carrier sheet so that you know exactly where it's at. And now I'm going to go ahead and use the flamingo to do the final little swoosh on top, because I'm actually going to trim this down. So that looks about where I want it. Looking pretty good. Put away my ink, wipe down my stamp, put it away. And now you can see there's a lot of space that's not being used. I'm okay with that. I'm going to trim it off and make it the length that I want for my sentiment. Just like so. I'm going to grab my smaller paper trimmer and gauge it just like so. Just kind of slid it over until it's where I want it. Trim it down. Then I'm going to measure this to see how much I cut. So I took off 1 3/4 of an inch, stashed that into my mad stash of supplies. Take my backing, and I'm going to take off the same amount of space, right? Because that's the whole point, is to have this pair up well. So since I knew I cut off 1 3/4 inches, I just did another 1 3/4 inches, and that'll be really nice. So adding on my adhesive. And this time I'm going to run with some 3D foam tape. It doesn't take much, but I do like it to be even. So this is thin, so it'll go through the U.S. Postal Service fairly nicely. And I like to just quickly do a quick press down, peel up the backing, bring that back in, and just like so, I'm going to have that line up pretty well with the base of my strip that I did here. And this leaves quite a bit of room, but we have these little flowers, and they actually coordinate really well with that stamp. So I'm going to use my ever-present adhesive, and let's do one there and another flower that's smaller, maybe out there. And let's add a butterfly over here. Just like so. And that makes a really cute, usable card for what I'm needing. If I was feeling extra fancy, I could, let's see here. Maybe a spot with her. I like using my non-stick scissors, and I just lift it off and slide it in right where I want it, just like so. I think the opening here is smaller, and that's okay. It doesn't need a whole bunch. I think that's a really nice, simple thank you card. Thank you for joining me today for my live at 5 Pacific time. And I'm going to remove my desktop here. There we go. And I will be back on the third day. So today is Tuesday. I will be back on Friday. Have a great day, everyone. And I will be happy to share more later. Have a great night. Bye for now.